In today's Leeds news, Summerville departs for West Ham, Ljubicic offer to come, Gnonto Everton move growing unlikely. Morning folks, Jer here on Thursday morning, the 1st of August, 1 month left in the summer transfer window. And we're all getting a little bit nervous, and it's understandable. And yesterday was a crazy day with what happened with Summerville, but we're going to get into the full details of that. And I think after seeing the full details and getting some information from a source last night, I'm not ITK, I'm not in the know, and I've never claimed to be, but we did get information last night about the structure of the deal with Summerville. I spoke about it on Just Joe's show last night and on Our to Know Better podcast, and that information has proved this morning to be very reliable, and we'll go into that in detail. But yesterday afternoon we heard the news from Darmah Sheth at Sky Sports, then picked up by Fabrizio Romano, that Leeds United and West Ham were in advanced negotiations for the sale of Summerville to West Ham United. The initial reaction from myself and every other fan was, as long as we get the fee that we're holding out for, fine, but let's get that fee. The issue that popped up late yesterday afternoon was Fabrizio Romano's "Here we go" tweet, which stated that Leeds would receive £25 million all in, including add-ons. And that was just the wording of the tweet, but it should be said, English is not Fabrizio Romano's first language. And Ben Jacobs, who also works with Give Me Sport with Romano, picked it up and clarified that statement. And we have all the full details this morning around what that package is like. Leeds' valuation of Summerville was said to be in the region of £30 to £40 million. And having a £25 million all-in offer felt a bit short and caused a little bit of outrage online. And I was included in that as well. We were all a little bit annoyed that we felt that we were being shortchanged, but that now appears to not be the case. Summerville will sign a 5-year deal at West Ham, has already had his medical early this morning around 9:30 a.m. and is expected to fly off around 3 o'clock today to America to meet up with his new teammates. Leeds will receive a flat £25 million fee for the player, plus an additional £5 million based on performance-based add-ons, and they include games played, goals scored and assists. So a very achievable add-on for Leeds, which would bring the fee up to £30 million. In the reports that have come out this morning from the Yorkshire Evening Post, it also says that Leeds will also receive a £4 million add-on should Summerville make his debut for the Dutch national side, which would bring the entire fee to £34 million, which is slap bang in the middle of that £30 to £40 million asking price. The obvious question will come up and has already started is, why sell a player if we don't have to? We were told the Red Bull money meant we didn't have to sell any players, but that gets cherry picked. Because in that same conversation, it was also said that if a player wants to leave and Leeds can achieve the valuation that they believe that they can get for the player, then the player can go. According to the reports yesterday, Summerville had a phone call from Julian Lopetegui when the clubs were negotiating. After speaking with the new West Ham United manager and seeing his plans for and for next season, Summerville informed the club that this was the move that he wanted to take. Leeds, as well as fans, have all been aware since the end of the season last year that Summerville was very, very likely to move on from Leeds United, and it was just a case of getting the right fee for the player. And Leeds will, in its entirety, receive around about £34 million. And there is a major trophy clause in that as well, which will probably knock a couple of million off that price should it not happen. But it should be said that West Ham United did win the Europa Conference League 2 years ago, so it is very possible that they could win another trophy, even if it's a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup. They're building a pretty strong squad there at the moment and spending a lot of money to back Julian Lopetegui this summer. For me, Summerville has handled his exit very, very well. He hasn't really pushed for a move. He had a conversation. Leeds knew that there would be a trade-off here should they not get promoted, and they didn't. And Summerville hasn't caused any problems. He hasn't gone on strike. He hasn't kicked up a fuss. He's handled it the right way. So for me, he leaves Leeds United with my blessing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in the rest of his career and seeing what he does in the Premier Division. He didn't have a huge amount of time there with Leeds United, and it's probably an unproven entity going into the Premier League, but a player with a very high ceiling, and it's going to be very exciting to see what he does there. Unfortunately, it won't be with Leeds United. So what happens next? For me, regardless of the transfer fee that Leeds have got, that's not the important question for me. The important question for me is, what's the replacement going to be? For me, I actually believe Leeds possibly won't even bring in a winger to replace Summerville, and we may see Jorginho Rutter move out into the wing, the position he was bought to play in initially, and he did cost us £35 million, so you were getting a £35 million replacement in a sense there. And then Leeds may use the money from Summerville to invest in a number 10, which they appear to have been active in looking for over the course of this summer, and that would give Leeds what they need in all of these positions, but it has to happen. Summerville leaving means that Leeds have time to get a replacement in, and this isn't a Luis Sinistera situation where Leeds are forced into a move on the final day of the season. Leeds have 10 days before the season kicks off, and seeing how fast the Summerville move came about, you would imagine that Leeds could move pretty quick to get somebody else in. The big piece here is we know that Leeds need a centre midfielder and a fullback. Daniel Farke has said that publicly, and we were also told publicly that if a big player leaves Leeds, Leeds will replace them with a solution and a player of a similar profile. And Daniel Farke said Leeds United have solutions in place should that happen. It has now happened, and what we as fans will need to see moving forward is if those solutions actually come true and we see a player of a decent calibre coming in. Now, Leeds could do a smart move here. Leeds could dip in and bring Jesram Raksaki into Leeds on loan for the season and kick the can down the road for a year, get promoted to the Premier League, and then use some of that money for a bigger signing when Leeds are in a position to negotiate for better wingers as a Premier League club. That could happen. But Leeds could also go for one of the number 10s they've been linked with. You could see a Jack Clark or a Sammy Smodix. Gabriel Sarra for me isn't happening. It's too much money for a player that there's been rumour around. It may happen, but for me personally, I don't think it will. I think you will more than likely see a player come in that we haven't been linked with so far. Leeds have done very smart business last summer. They have gaps to fill this year. For me personally, if they can replace Summerville, if they can get the number 8 in the middle of the park sorted and get a full back in, seeing what happens with Max Fober, who I personally think won't be here come the end of the transfer window. He may be, but I don't think he will be. They will need to replace them there as well, although James De Boyo has looked a very handy backup so far during pre-season, but it's a lot of pressure on a young player, but he might fill the Charlie Creswell role last season on the bench. We'll have to wait and see. But for right now, for me, it's going to be a case of who replaces Chris Summerville, and that's the one. What's been said publicly is Leeds have solutions should this happen. It has happened. Now we need to see what the solutions are and see who comes in. But don't be surprised if it's not a winger. Personally, I'd love to see Jack Clark come in that position. I think he's a different type of winger for Chris Summerville. But we've seen Leeds play around with different systems in pre-season with a 3-4-3 as well. So wing-backs are more important than wingers. And you've got Junior Firpo and Jayden Bogle who both operate better as wing-backs than full-backs. So there's possibly something in that as well. And we'll have to see what they do elsewhere. But right now, that's the situation. Leeds will receive in and around £34 million if all add-ons are achieved. If they're not all achieved, in and around £30 million for the player that Leeds invested £1.3 million in when they first brought him in. There are some ludicrous claims going around, by the way, that Leeds have a 45% sell-on clause in Chris Summerville's deal, and if any club put that level of a sign-on into a player's deal, they should be ashamed of themselves. But it was a Victor Orta contract, so you never know. But I don't believe that that's the case. I mean, there will be probably a sell-on, but a nominal sell-on or an average sell-on that most clubs will have for young players being sold. Anyway, but that's the situation. We move on, as we always do when a player leaves Leeds United. We move on and we wait for the next player to come in and see what player Leeds bring in to replace Chris Summerville. This will be a very different looking Leeds United team come the start of the season, and it can go two ways. You can be nervous about it or excited about it. I personally think what I've seen so far in pre-season, Leeds are heading in the right direction. So moving on to the next story, and this is very much still in the rumour territory position, and this one relates to the Dejan Ljubicic situation. We know Leeds United went in with an initial offer for Ljubicic, which was rejected. We know he's in the last year of his contract, and we know that FC Cologne wanted to keep the player there if they can, and their sporting director is very confident of being able to do that. According to HITC Sport and reports in Germany, Leeds United are expected to go in with another offer very soon in excess of £4 million for the player in order to try and get that deal over the line. It's also said that Leeds have other targets in that midfield 8 position and are not just focusing on Ljubicic but are looking around at other number 8s there. But as I said, it's very much in the rumour mill territory right now, but the YEP and Leeds Live did say a week or so ago this was one to keep an eye on. We saw with Jayden Bogle, Leeds went in with an initial approach, it went quiet, then Leeds went again and got the deal done. So you may see that happen now as well. With an extra few quid in the pocket for Leeds United now, it should be a case of getting deals done a little bit quicker, so we would hopefully see that one there. The next one, and probably the last biggest story of the day, is the Willy Gnonto situation with Everton and what's going on there. And according to the Liverpool Echo, Sean Dyche is not expecting any more signings from Everton this summer based on extreme financial restrictions that he has dealing with. Dyche says that the club are working within the financial restrictions and constraints that they have this summer. They have brought in some players, but it is very likely that they will see the sales of Jared Braithwaite and Dominic Calvert-Lewin this summer in order to balance their books. That might mean that later on in the window they could be in a position to move for someone like Willie Gnonto, but right now it's looking unlikely. The big questions will be now around the future of Willie Gnonto's situation, based on the fact that his best friend and the person he's closest to at Leeds has now moved on. Will Gnonto look to move on as well? Or will he look to pick up the mantle being left behind by Chris Summerville? Will he look to take on the number 10 shirt and play on his now favoured left-hand side with Summerville being gone? That might facilitate Gnonto coming into the starting lineup and being an ever-present in that side, should he believe in that and want to buy into that. It should also be said that Gnonto did change his agency a couple of weeks ago to the agency that Calvin Phillips changed his to before he got his move to Man City. The agency that he moved to are known for being able to be proactive about getting players moves, about putting information out in the press and pushing players to get them moves that they want. That could still very much happen with Willie Gnonto's situation, but right now he's still a Leeds player. But those question marks around Willie will continue to happen for the remainder of the next month, you would imagine. But should Leeds make a big move, if you see him getting a brand new shirt, that might be something that indicates the player is willing to stay. He could be handed a bigger role at Leeds and being asked to be the player that fires Leeds back into the Premier League next season. But we'll have to wait and see with that. There's not a huge amount of other news going on. I expect it to get quiet today and tomorrow, and then hopefully we start to see some stuff pick up around the Valencia game and into the early next week before we see players come in. But Leeds could move very quickly. We know they move in silent. They've been very quiet over the last week or so. We would expect to hear the announcement that Chris Summerville's deal is done and dusted today. And an announcement, I would be shocked if Leeds don't come out with a statement that says that the fee is an undisclosed fee. But West Ham will report probably something less than 25 million in order to appease both sets of fan base. The PR activity will kick off pretty rapidly. But as I said, for me, the fee is irrelevant as long as the replacement is of a significant level to replace Chris Summerville. You might not replace his goals, but you might be able to bring in a player that can add assists and give Leeds more options to get goals from other parts of the pitch. I'm still not worried about it. I'm still pretty relaxed. I think we'll get the replacements that we need. But this is the question. Will the solutions that we were told exist happen? We'll have to wait and see. The podcast will be out tonight, folks, by the way. Myself, Joe Blackburn and Max from Leeds Lately will be doing the pod later on. You can check that out. We will have the match preview with Andrew Stats Dalton tomorrow evening as a live stream. And then on Monday, or Sunday or Monday, we will have a match review from the Valencia game as well with a surprise guest that I'm excited to bring onto the channel. We'll talk about that later on in the weekend. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the sunshine. Relax. Things are going to be fine. We're going to be fine. I hope. God, I hope. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later on today. See ya. Bye.